All right, it's all you. Ladies and gentlemen, Stryder.
Hi, folks. So you want to be a witch? Maybe. Now here's my question. Why? Don't answer me. Answer yourself. The main reason you need to ask yourself this is so you know which way you're going. Paganism. Been around for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. We're not pagans. Surprise. No, we're neo-pagans. And Wicca is a bit of neo-paganism. Give you a little bit of history on me first, just so you know who I am. I grew up in central Pennsylvania, and my first people that I studied with was a Pennsylvania Dutch Browker. That's a hex doctor. What they did, mainly, they drew those hex signs you saw on barns. They also did herbs, and they would heal, and they would curse. You would think Pennsylvania Dutch is not, they're such nice people. Well, they're not really. They've been around a long time. When I say neo-paganism, it's been around for 150, 200 years. Got started up because mainly there were some debauched people out there that wanted to have weird sex. That's how we started. Yeah. That's how we started. And guys, when I say you want to be a witch, you already are. Every one of you. How many of you have knocked on wood? Yeah. How many of you have blown out birthday candles? You're performing magic every time. Make a wish, blow out the candles, smoke goes up to the gods. You're doing magic. We've been doing magic all our lives. And one of the first bits of magic that I was exposed to was actually Christian magic. My aunt stopped blood. And the way she did that, she would repeat a Bible verse. Hands on, blood would stop. Now I know that for a fact because when I was young, I had nosebleeds like crazy. And she stopped it several times. Now, she never told me what that verse was. And if I told her, by the way, she's 89 and still going strong, that she was doing witchcraft, she'd hit me. But that's how I started off. Learning herbs, various signs, sigils. And when I was doing this, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have a lot of out people. I mean, people hid what they were. If you find somebody who tells you that they're descended from a lineage of witches for 12 generations, ask them what their great-grandmother's name was. Chances are they can't tell you. There were no 12 generations. We're new. And that's what's so exciting about it. We've had a lot of the groundwork laid, and we're still evolving. We're still learning. Come on in. We're still making this neo-paganism, Wicca, vibrant. If you're interested in being witches because of that, great. Now, when I say paganism is large, it's huge. It's all over the place, because everything that falls under that umbrella is basically everything that isn't Christian, Jewish, or Muslim. We're neo-pagans, like I said, new, coming up new. So we're putting up new traditions. Now, I know some families that have been around and have been raised in it. Kate over there, one. I know some others that were raised in it too. And it's interesting, I feel, how we learn and we keep learning. That's what we do as Wiccans. We question. Which is why I asked you why you wanted to be a witch. You'll learn every day. Now, this is a 101 class. Some of you have been around for a while. Again, like I said. So, but I'm going to tell you stuff you've heard and stuff some of you might not have heard of. I'm going to pronounce some words the way I pronounce them. May not be the way you do. Not a problem. Go look it up in the dictionary and pronounce it any way you want. I have my staff right here. Staff is used to hold me up. It's also used to direct energy. You might use a wand. You might use a sword. You want a sword, right?
I have one.
Yeah. You might use one. Usually, but not always. You can do all this with nothing. Just yourself. That's all you need. Because what we're doing is we're following the wheel of the year, getting in tune with nature and how things work. All the bells and whistles are fun. They're cool. And they can get as cool as you can afford or you want. But you don't need them. I went to a prison because an inmate asked me to come because they wanted to set up a Wiccan class and worship there. One of the things they could not use, believe me, for some reason, prisons don't want prisoners having knives. Yeah, I don't understand it, but what they did, they made an athame out of paper. Simple paper cutout. Works. It all works. It's all in here. What we do and what the earth does is has a lot of energies. And we tap into those energies every day. You might notice it yourself when you're walking barefoot. You feel it. When you stand by a stream and you listen to that thing chuckle and tell you all sorts of stories because they've seen everything. This is what we do. One of the things, and I got a few props here, these are not dedicated. These are just regular things that I have. I didn't bring my dedicated stuff, except for my staff here. This is a chalice. It's a nice little chalice. It's pretty heavy too. But what that's used for, basically, is used for drinking out of. It's also used for libations, when you pour a little out to honor the gods. It's also used in half of the Great Rite. Oh yeah, that Great Rite. Remember I told you we got in the debauched people that were kinky and wanted sex? That's the Great Rite, which is good. It really is. Usually between a male and a woman, and they join together and join that energy. Fertility is also another basic. Most of pagans in the far back, what they believed is lost. They didn't write things down. About the only thing we know about a lot of them is what conquerors wrote. And you know how that is. They want to make fun of you. They want to put us down. So we don't really know a lot of it. Some we do. Native Americans have got it sussed because they're the only ones that can tell you, I got a lineage going back 12 generations, and I believe them. There are people that do. They're out there. But the 12 generation ones, they're keeping their mouths shut. Simple as that. Anyway, chalice. That's the female energy. Makes sense, doesn't it? Then you have an athame. Now, an athame, traditionally, is a double-bladed, black-handled knife. Like that one. Now, traditionally also, it's not kept sharp. Because you're not cutting anything with this. You're cutting air. You're cutting energy. But that's all you're cutting with that. You're not cutting your shoelaces or anything like that. most of your tools, these are the ones that you should have. Pretty easy to get. And then you dedicate them. And what I mean by dedicate is you dedicate them to be used in ritual and to be used in worship. You can do that during a full moon, which is known as an S-bat, for those of you that are wondering. Or a new moon. New moon's also a good time. I mentioned Wheel of the Year. Wheel of the Year is our holidays. There's 8 of them. Now those 8 start with me. They start at Samhain, which is Halloween. You guys all know that. That's the beginning of the year. Next holiday we have is Yule, which is also kind of incumbent on the winter solstice. Then we go up to Candlemas, Imbolc, for those of you that are Gaelic. That's on February 2nd. It's also my mom's birthday. It's easy to remember. Then we got another major one. There's 4 major ones and 4 lesser Sabbaths. The next major one is Beltane, May 1st. Hmm?
Spring.
Oh, you're right, the star. Catch me, people, catch me. You're right. You're right. So Stara, which is the spring equinox. Then we go to, you threw me off. Okay. Anyhow, then we go to Beltane, May 1st, Maypoles, lots of fertility. Remember, that's a lot. That's what we do. We're all fertility. We want to raise crops. We want to raise animals. We want to raise livestock. We want to raise energy. And it's all fertility. Then we go along into midsummer. Yeah. That one's fun. That's one of the times when I really do feel like going out skyclad. You may have heard that term too, folks. Skyclad is wearing nothing but the sky. You don't have to do that. You can if you want to, but you don't have to.
Come midsummer,
You may want to. Then you have Lunasa or Lammas. Lammas, the word comes from loaf mass. And it's when the first harvests were usually made and rents were traditionally paid. And usually that was a loaf of bread or wheat or whatever. That happens August 1st. Then we go to Mabon, which is the fall equinox. And hey, go another 6 weeks and there we are back at Samhain again. About every 6 weeks we got a major holiday. Then of course for 13 months of the year, whenever the moon gets full, that's a good time to meet too. If you want to grow things, start when the moon is waxing, which means getting bigger. I'm defining terms as I go along because sometimes people don't have any idea what that means. When the moon is waning, you want to do away with stuff, and that's when it's getting smaller. Whew. Now I'm trying to think else what I want to go to. Anybody got any questions so far?
Actually, talk about dedicating particular items and whatnot. It's just dedicated to using ritual,
Yes.
as opposed to dedicating to a specific entity or.
You can go to a specific entity if you want to dedicate to a specific entity. Say, well, let's go with ones people know, the Roman gods. Say you want to dedicate your peacock feathers to Hera. Except Hera's Greek. Juno is who you want to go to. You didn't catch me on that one.
Sorry.
Had a process. And
Greco-Roman gods and goddesses, I sometimes get them crossed. So.
Okay, well then let's go to Freya. Norse. Yeah, you can. But usually when you're dedicating your tools, you're dedicating them to yourself for ritual. They're special, is the thing. That's what the dedication is. They're used for that and only that. If you were tarot readers, most of you have a cloth that you keep your cards in. It's to keep it clean, keep the energies in, to keep it clean, special. That's the main thing. When I say we're in such an exciting time, we get to write new stuff. A couple weeks ago, Kate put up The Charge of the Goddess. Beautiful poetry. Something to live by. You can write it too. You know, we're still evolving. We're still learning. Back when I started, again, like I said, we didn't have any internet or anything. You read books when you could find them. You talked to people if you could find them. They didn't usually show up in the Carnegie Library. For some reason, I think those old librarians didn't like them.
Yeah. You donate a book and go to see if it was there, and it would have mysteriously disappeared.
Yep.
So,
That's why they don't check out books on suicide. They don't get brought back.
That's a bad joke.
Yes, it's terrible. Well, Bill's not dead. It just smells that way. Anyway, that's pretty much what I had going, which is why I kind of was asking for questions.
you talked about the Great Rite. The Great Rite being performed in ritual between a guy and a girl. That's commonly done in a more private setting.
Oh, yeah.
But talk about the representation of the Great Rite using the chalice and anything.
That's a good idea. Well, like she said, great rite between a man and a woman, that's sex magic. And believe you me, you can bring up a lot of energy that way. However, sometimes you got kids and you don't want to bring that up. A lot of times the great rite, depending on which coven you're in, they will go off out of circle and consummate the act. However, for those who have children, a little prudish, and let's face it, we're brought up that way, or just don't want to do it that way, we can do it representatively. You take your chalice, representing the female, athame, representing the male. Yeah, he's watching something else.
He's got an ear open. He's got an ear open.
So you know what happens then? You join and you build the energy. Male energy, female energy. The rest of the group lends their energy as you go to the priestess and the priest who are performing the great rite. And then the priest will put his athame in the chalice, and then they will let that energy go into the universe or whatever they want to do. That's when we're talking about magic. Magic is real, folks. I'm not talking David Copperfield. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. But the magic that we can do, you get a group of people together in a circle. And I was so over basic, I skipped over that. A circle is a sacred space that you make with your energy and the earth's energy, and you draw a circle. But while you're drawing a circle, you're also drawing a hemisphere and another hemisphere underneath. You're making it safe from any negative energy. And you can call quarters, which are the various cardinal directions. You go for north and you call, that's the element of air. East is the element, yeah, this is mine, this is depends on your.
Let me explain before everybody starts jumping up and down.
Yeah.
Different traditions
Have different
see
sets.
the directions as good different elements. So
Yep.
this is how he does his.
Mine is air, east is, excuse me, east is earth, south is fire, and west is water.
So, what? What is,
Those are the 4 elements that make up
no, I mean,
Why
why
that
is
order?
yours different? What is your,
just the way I learned.
okay.
I have
But they
seen
all-
other places where they went the complete opposite, and that's fine. Again, we're learning. And we all learn a different way. Many paths to the top of the mountain and such. So, when you call in your quarters, you call in your watchtowers, you call in your guardians, there's a lot of different words for that. But it's basically just the spirits that manifest themselves through those cardinal directions. Makes it safe for all that. And when you're in there, each one of you joins together and lends energy to the next. And it builds. And it builds. And you can direct that energy and cast it out into the universe for what you want done. Yes, you can do evil. You can do good. It depends on what you're doing. I personally don't do evil, but I know how. I had to learn how. You got to learn how to curse if you want to learn how to heal, because it's opposite sides of the coin. You can't have one without the other. So, did that answer that question? Yes.
Isn't there a 5th element of
Spirit.
spirit that combines all
Spirit.
of them, connects
Yes.
them all?
Some groups do that, and it's those 5 elements are what make up the pentacle. Yeah, pentacle, by the way, for those of you that don't know, is the star in a circle. If it's just a star, it's a pentagram. Yeah. And if it's a great big office building, it's a pentagon. But yeah, spirit is also in there. I just didn't bring it up because some people bring spirit in. Some will call the 4 quarters and figure spirit is always there.
Anytime we do the circle, it's the 4 directions, God and Goddess, and then that. I mean, universal energy, power, God, love, whatever you want to call it.
Yep. And that's why I said this is exciting. We're still building. Christianity's been around a little over 2,000 years. Judaism, 5. And most of their stuff is pretty well set. But we're still building. We're trying to build what was before as best we can. And when we can, that's fine. If we can't, we make do with what's happy. What makes us feel right.
I like to think of it as an evolving spirituality,
Exactly.
rather than just saying, this is it.
Yeah, it's still evolving. It's still growing. It's going to get bigger. Now we're a little more accepting, which is good. I remember one time I was talking to a guy, and I mentioned that I was a witch. And he says, "Oh, no, you're not." And I said, "Yeah, I am." He said, "No, you're not. You're a male. You're a warlock." And I said, "Okay, where did you learn that?" "Bewitched."
Yeah.
Okay. You got to teach other people.
Yeah. That's the reason for the Amazing Syndicated Cable program.
Now it's witchcraft and wizardry, so you're not a warlock, you're a wizard.
Oh yeah. Tell me about it, Harry. You're a wizard. Sorcery came from Aleister Crowley and the Golden Dawn. It's another aspect of paganism.
Just another word that was getting get along with all the rest of it.
Nope. It's a whole other aspect. What people don't
Is it
realize.
different as far as a phrase, a term of person, or is it different in the root of the word too? Because ensorcelled is to be bewitched, correct?
Correct.
But
Again,
etymology.
That's where things come from. I don't know where it all comes from, and I'm not afraid to say that. But I do know sorcery comes from there. Again, Crowley was something else.
If you guys ever want a class on Crowley, I have somebody to bring in.
Oh yeah.
I thought Anton LaVey was dead.
No. It's a bit of a story, I'll tell you someday.
Been there for at least part of that.
Anyway, we have a lot of stuff, and it's great. I like it. I'm glad you guys are interested. I hope more people come being interested. But again, this is pretty much my time. Happy to answer any other questions that I can. Or if you just want to talk about stuff, that's fine too.
Is the internet now like a good place to do research on stuff?
It's the Wild
It
West.
is and it isn't.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah.
It's still the Wild West. So
Get anything else that you study on the internet, you got good sites and you got bad sites.
Yeah.
Look how many answers you get to the same question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The difference
and not all of
is-
them are wrong, and not all of them are right.
I figured the same with books probably too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are so many people out there that have written books or put up web pages, and they're there to make money.
Yeah.
Who would you say, at least as far as for the books that are out there, and some of them have been around for quite some time, one of the more or less reputable individuals, which are some of the more core books that are considered universally to be
Beneficial.
better to go to?
Starhawk, Dorian Valente, Grimaldi. Yeah, there's quite a few of them out there.
Who was the second book?
Silver Raven
Grimaldi.
is great for newbies.
For newbies.
It's a
Yeah.
great way to get started.
That was
Can
my
you repeat
introduction.
them again?
Oh,
Starhawk.
Starhawk,
Grimaldi.
Dorian Valente.
where we got the.
I think it's Edgar Grimaldi, but I'm not sure. I can't. Don't give me on the first name.
I like Scott Cunningham.
Scott Cunningham's very good. Yeah, these are all good beginning books, and that's where you should be going. Because just remember, when you're reading something, unless it's a very, very, very heavy book, nothing is carved in stone. It's their opinion. Same as what I'm telling you right now. These are my opinions. Huh? Starting point to build on. Exactly. You question.
It's like Bruce Lee's philosophy, isn't it? Take what works and dispense with the rest.
Kind of you read everything and what strikes you as right, stick with it.
It's usually
Unless it's
right
harming
for you.
someone else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If it involves harming another person or harming yourself, run away.
We would like to do that. But again, all around, you got to know them both.
Yes.
You can't have light without the dark.
Very true.
Difference between knowing and
I
practicing.
mean,
On the internet, when you're studying stuff, verify.
Trust but verify.
Check
Check sources.
several different check sources, several different things on the same thing.
if there's somebody you trust that you feel
Exactly.
you can
Ask him.
ask.
Oh, then ask.
her, ask me.
Take
Yeah.
notes.
You can-
Yeah.
With like a lot of articles, if you can pick out what their point is, like are they trying to sell you a book? Are they trying to make you believe their path or not believe someone else's? Once you get that basis of the article, you can start to see where the facts lie in it.
Yeah. A good way to find out how to research your own facts. Look up David Wright. Once you write down and find a page with all the symbols that you think is correct, then look up more. Those symbols are going to change. And
Same with runes.
the more you research, the more you find out. You will get down to the hard tack, what is actually meaning, and what is actually someone has rewritten or redesigned.
Or interpreted, yeah. Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Think that the gods speak through them.
For whatever
and so
reason.
that they're gonna tell you what the gods told them.
And
It's
then,
true.
and you find those sites. Make sure you write those down. because the ones that you find that are correct are the ones that are going to stay more accurate with what their findings.
Yep.
And the other ones going, this is my new book.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know if it's still in print anymore, but I have a book about yay thick. It's called The Magician's Companion. It is one of the best reference books I've ever found. And I cannot tell you right now.
Okay.
I'll have to go home and
The Magician's
find it.
Companion?
It's called The Magician's Companion, and it covers so many different subjects. Different magical writings, different magical numerical forms. It covers a number of pantheons. It covers just like all kinds of stuff. It has
Magician's Handbook.
yes,
Okay.
There
Tremendous.
is so much to learn. So much out there.
Yeah, like I said, I am still learning. You know, y'all can sit there and say, "Oh, you know it." No, I don't know anything.
And look out for people that claim to be experts.
Oh God, yes. That's true.
There's no such thing as a spiritual expert.
They don't know it all, that's for sure. Like I said, I don't know it all either. You're right, I'm still learning too. And I find new stuff every day. And if you really want to have some magic, step outside and watch the fireflies. It's all around us, folks. It really is. It's there. You just got to open your eyes to see it. And once you do,
It's
it's everywhere. Yeah. Thor's hammer. Uh-huh.
It's funny as I'm a kid,
That's all right. I had just this little thing here. It's just a little pentagram. But we all have stuff. And like I said, the bells and whistles. They're so much fun.
We have so many bells and whistles now.
Oh, yeah, I bet you do.
You seen it?
I've heard stories.
I have a
Of
bag at
exploits.
home. It's my portable altar. Keeps my chalice in there. Now, this one, that's cute. The chalice I use is an old pewter chalice. It's banged up, it's beat up, it's dented. But it's mine. And it's got a lot of history to it. I keep my athame in there. I keep incense in there. Ooh, candles. Folks, we love candles.
Oh my God. Candles, jars, and incense.
Yeah. Oh my.
Jars.
Random
And
spices.
candles in jars.
Yeah.
And crystals.
I was about to say, I think we've left out one very, very
Yes,
important
I
thing.
Oh, yeah.
Crystals and
Crystals,
rocks,
yes.
not just crystals, rocks. Really
Rocks
sparkly
that speak
rocks.
To you.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yours.
Mirrors.
Cool
Yeah,
sticks,
I have
like-
mirrors.
Anything that's out there, we can use, and we do. Now, Dano, you're into the Native American, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's, like I said, they do. They've had a big kick in the teeth,
Oh,
but they have kept a lot of ritual that most of us will never see. Been to a couple of powwows,
yeah.
but I haven't seen all of it.
We keep it mainly with the elders. You have to be recognized, especially by shaman,
Yep.
as another shaman. I've not been recognized. So all my teachings has been doing there.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons that we don't know a lot about our pagan roots. It's because they were passed down from person to person, and sometimes people died before they passed it on. When I mentioned the Pennsylvania Dutch, when they came over, yeah, they're Christian. They are. However, they also had a lot of witchcraft built in. People don't know that. They passed that along from male to female. Yeah, exactly.
It's practical magic.
It's practical magic. It was passed along from male to female. And if somebody died before they passed it on, was lost. And that's how we lose a lot.
I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
Do they still abolish Christmas?
Hmm?
Do they still abolish Christmas?
Most of the Orthodox Amish do. They do not follow it. Now you've got some of the Amish light. There, you got Orthodox. They're like
Diet
Jews
Amish.
too. You got the heavy duty. You got yeah, and a lot of the young ones. Yeah, some of them are starting to pick up on Christmas, but most of the Orthodox Mennonites will think about Christmas. But yeah, the heavy duty Orthodox Amish, the ones with the buggies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I grew up among them. They had,
Get stuck behind on the road.
Yeah.
oh Lordy. When I was a kid, we went out trick or treating. I grew up in a small town. And when I say small, we went trick or treating. We would go in people's houses and they would guess who we were. Most of these people were related to us. You know, Amish family bought the farm down the road from us. So that Halloween, we hit them up. They had no idea.
Were you creatively costumed?
Oh yeah, we you know, back then we didn't buy the costumes. We had the you know, hobo things, the straw man, whatever. We showed up. They had no idea what was coming. That lady was so damn gracious. She gave us each a fresh baked loaf of bread.
Wow.
Something I remember to this day. I've gotten a lot of different candy at Halloween. I remember that loaf of bread. Mhm. But yeah, a lot of the holidays, they don't make a big deal about. Ours, they tend to make a big deal about, because they are following the wheel of the year, even though they call it something different. Yeah.
When I was a kid,
Yes,
we had an acquaintance. Again, really long story, I'll tell you someday. He claimed to be Pennsylvania Dutch, and he claimed also to be a Hetzmeister.
uh-huh.
And I only was in a ritual with him one time, and it was probably the most terrifying and amazing thing I've ever seen in my life, because his entire ritual was in German. Yeah. And once he started going, he just built up and up and up and up, and the wind started blowing.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like yelling into the wind, and I was just like, I'm gonna die. 14. I was 14.
Wow.
And
Impressionable.
very, yeah. And I'm standing there watching this going, what have you gotten us into? What is happening? It was pretty incredible.
That's why King James said, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," because he was afraid that witches were going to cast up a storm and wreck him at sea,
Well,
and some of them might have wanted to.
yeah, I can see that. But, when you said that you had studied with Pennsylvania Dutch, I was like, ooh.
Oh yeah.
A whole new respect, huh?
I can call up a storm when I want to.
That's,
I try not to.
well,
I don't know why you just remind me of the story of the witch that blew away the entire village.
Yeah. The thing is, the earth is set up on her own. I don't need to be messing with her.
But there's, you can, but it's
Yeah.
somewhere along there, you have to
There-
think, should I?
There's some stuff, you know, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
exactly.
So, again, that's why I say I don't curse people.
But it is helpful to understand it.
Yep. You know what you're doing when you got a jar and some pins and needles and urine and oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah, that's the thing about the people that I hang out with. We're not a bunch of white lighters. I'm all for.
I don't know that that's even possible.
I have
Only
try.
love and light, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a great ideal, but in reality.
Yeah,
That's not
I
easy.
tried that.
balance. You gotta have the balance.
And you gotta recognize both,
The
or
year-
one's gonna get upset.
Our year is a dark and a light. Our planet is dark and light. It's, you know, it's,
Yep.
it's a part of our nature. It's a part of who we are. But, yep. I think even the gods and goddesses have aspects that are light,
Complementary.
aspects that are dark.
Mhm.
The expanded portfolios, because you think of, like, Freya is a good example, you know, goddess of love, goddess of war.
Mhm.
Athena,
Same.
they're all there. They have all got light, dark, every one of them.
Yeah.
Well, we created the gods in our own
You know.
universe.
That was the first thing I was taught as a pagan.
Yep.
And I thought it was horrible because I was still so Christianized. I could not, I guess I was still stuck on a we were created kind
Well,
of.
somebody created him too.
Years to get it. It took years, but now it's, even when I say it to pagans, they look at me like I'm.
We created the gods to fill a need,
I
each
was
one of them.
told we
And
created
as we
them to-
create them, they manifest.
Maybe
Exactly. Exactly. You can put a brick out there and give it power, and it's powered now. Yep. Yep.
somebody will walk by and go,
Pattern
"There's
ourselves.
something interesting about that book."
Right. I'm gonna go throw it at my neighbor.
Your neighbors.
My neighbor. That's terrible that we were on the same path there.
You might want to tell.
Let's edit that on the video.
Yeah, we don't need that coming up in court somewhere.
That was a struggle though for years, and that's why I say she was lucky to be generational pagan.
Yeah.
Because you have to unlearn or unplug from the teachings that you had, and the we were created. For me to realize that we do create our gods was that was page turn. That
I
whole
was very lucky. I was brought up Methodist.
Same.
Yeah, which is a little more open,
Diet Christian.
but yeah, there you go. A little more open, but even so, when
Well,
you
it's not
start
Christian
asking those
zero.
hard questions, they kind of go, "Wait a minute, just stop."
Yeah, I was brought up. on
Here, have a donut.
so,
Yeah, definitely.
So
Method
it was
to the
the
madness.
questions that encouraged and
Exactly.
the blind faith is a must, and I mean,
It's
not
just-
that they ever said that, but God forbid you ask a question. You
My
know what I
first
mean?
encounter with that of we created gods in the image was when I started to follow a Norse bent as a primary. And I ran into an article that said, don't look at them as literal gods to walk the earth, look at them as archetypes to strive to be.
Exactly. To pattern ourselves.
And it's a completely different line of thought for whatever I was taught. You know, God is God, not God is an
But
ideal.
Who you choose to worship, and who you choose to pattern yourself, it says more about you.
Absolutely.
Than it does the deity or entities or whatever. It's who you've chosen. I mean, just the power of choice.
And some of those
in
archetypes are
paganism
harder to
is
follow and teach you differently than some others.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt, yes.
Oh, yeah.
But again, it's
Things that have been around for a while, they've already manifested, so they can come.
Well, that's
But-
what I like about the Celtic ones, is that they're reborn again as
Yep.
needed.
Yep.
That's, yeah.
Well, something that I personally believe, and I think it kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of goes along with the, Native American speaking, is not necessarily we've created gods. It's we are giving name to elements, things, spirits that are already there. Like,
Animism.
and
Yep.
naming things that in essence, and this is what I grew up in Lutheranism, which is like Catholic light,
Yep.
but I had an aunt who was like Roman Catholic. I was not her favorite. Just saying.
You'll find a lot of lapsed Catholics find paganism very cool because they're into the theater too.
Catholicism is pretty much pagan. Just
Are damn near witches.
Yep.
yeah, they are.
My adopted mom would hang
blessed.
over the chandeliers where the energy of the house in the dining room, you know what I mean? Where
And how do you make holy water? The full moon.
My parents were Baptist, and my aunt had amethyst everywhere. Everywhere. She was totally a crystal Christian.
Yep.
But the
Crystal Christian, I like
the way
that.
I always looked at it is and what I thought it was, is we as humans gave names to things that we didn't really understand, so we
Yes.
could try to understand it better.
Yep.
Like looking at the old pantheons,
There's
there's names for different things that control earthquakes and, volcanoes and, the volcano's exploding. We did not please that God. We have to go please that God
Pele's
in order
mad.
to.
And you give that energy towards that God image, and you create that God.
Naming something frames it.
It becomes an entity.
But what's interesting is like with smudging, when they said it cleanses the air and everything, but when you look into it, it actually does have antiseptic
Mhm.
properties. So, I mean, there was something to what they believed.
There's a grain of truth
Just
in
how
pretty
did
much
they know?
everything.
You know what I mean? That's,
I have a story about my smudge stick that I'll tell you later. It doesn't necessarily have to be on video.
Does it involve lube?
No, it involves just a single leaf.
Okay. That's one of the reasons why I find neo-paganism as home.
yeah,
It's because we can question.
yes.
We do feel, and it feels right.
It
That's
feels.
what the whole thing is, because when I came from Christianity, the cult, to paganism, well, they're all cults, basically, but this one really, I mean, no makeup and church on Saturday and Sabbath, and it was Old Testament.
Oh, Seventh-day
food laws
Adventist.
and yada, yada, yada. I did not trust any organized religion or set of teaching because I knew that there was ulterior motives. For 20 years, I've done a little bit of research and a whole lot of feeling it.
Mhm.
And this is one that you can go from one energy connection to the next, to the next, to the next, and your path opens up for you.
Yep.
Not something that people are trying to convince you that this is what you believe because this is what we told you.
Well, on that note, I do want to say one thing. Then, did you say something? Okay, go ahead, speak. I'll keep quiet.
I found it interesting because I've always been scientific minded that it correlates. You can make sense of it, even scientifically speaking. I mean, we're energy. We go back to when we become energy for something else.
Mhm.
It's that grand circle, and it just makes sense.
Yep.
And a lot of things that everybody thought was just BS, or hey, drink this, it'll make you feel better. Science has finally come around to proving that they were right.
I have a belief that magic is just science that hasn't been proven.
That's
Yes.
exactly
Absolutely true.
yes. That we don't
You've
get
been
it.
listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson again.
Yeah, it's Dr. Tyson.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't know who said that, but that's I
So
agree.
good.
One of the things that I never really spoke up the last time, being online, because of my workplace and whatnot, but I also stem from I never cared about spirituality really as a child or anything because it was just repetition every year it was the same.
Religion by rote.
Same stupid thing, rituals every time, just a different, what should we call it, I can't think of the name that you call it, when the priest gets up and talks for a long time.
Sermon.
That's the one.
Different intro.
Different sermon, but pretty much every time the year rolled around, it's the same
Yep.
thing. And so I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. My sister, the individual she married, they went up to, he was in the army and came back after his first stint. And they saw me in pagan, and I picked up Spiral Dance, and started
Mhm.
looking into it. At first it was just because I was 16 years old and it was like, hey, is this something that'll freak people out? So, myself, I was always and forever was a natural, more or less recluse, loner. Didn't really, I always had a habit of sticking my foot in my mouth most of the time, so I never really practiced it say with a lot of people. But as time has gone on, I'm still, the last, 18 years, I basically was shut in with my former significant other. So I just made a habit out of gleaning information from a lot of different sources and just playing it off in my head over and over again, finding, and recently been listening to several different things, scientific blogs or podcasts and stuff, talking about string theory, vibration of molecules, things of this nature, where everybody's talking about vibration with this and music and how it tying a whole lot of different little things together in my own mind makes a whole lot of sense. And
It's home.
so, but I don't really feel any sort of focus or draw towards any one specific thing as of yet. It's just
That's why I'm here.
broad.
I know nothing of Wicca at all, so that's why I'm here.
Goes along with exactly
Well, you should
what
know a
we
lot
said.
now.
I mean, I know the basics,
Okay.
but I don't.
Yeah.
Are kind of falling apart, but you've got so many more soul practitioners that are connecting with others to make things happen. I mean,
It's, I think, well, it's like I said, it's an evolution.
Yep.
And that's how, that's how any sort of spirituality should be. It
Yes.
grows to suit your
not
needs,
limited.
and you don't have to follow a rigid dogma. If it's something that speaks to you, and you go use that, if it doesn't, okay, that's fine.
Right.
I'm not gonna tell you, yes, you must absolutely do this.
No, that's Christianity.
You're going to hell.
I did want to say one thing about that, though. We're doing our thing. We're making our way to the top of the mountain by our own paths. So are the Christians.
Yeah.
So are the Jews. We need to be open to working with real Christians.
Yes, thank
Yes.
you.
Not the fake ones, not the crystal Christians, not the, because we have them too.
Yes, we do.
We have our crystal pagans out there.
Tammy Faye said it was true.
Yeah, there you go. And we need to be open to that if we want to do good in our area.
No
I think
gatekeeping.
one of my first examples of magic was hearing a simulcast of everybody in our church around the world singing the same song at the same time. And the energy that came up through me, I was like 6 years old. I felt the energy come up through me and expand, and I knew this wasn't Christian teaching.
It wasn't
I
your
was
normal
very
sermon.
young, but I knew,
You can do that every
recognized
full
that
moon.
energy. It was, yeah.
You get some friends, you can do that every full
I
moon.
sealed a friend of mine's path on the way to. He went to Cape Girardeau to be a theologian in the Christian church, and I sealed his faith by proving that magic exists. I gave him a ball,
Oh,
and he was just amazed, and it actually solidified his ideals. He went home, thought about it a lot, meditated, and
So tell me the ball.
Uh, I raised some energy, and I gave him an energy ball. I just
Okay,
handed it
okay.
and put it in his hand, and
Okay.
it's gonna be a long ride.
it was just
Right
one
on.
of those. He
Sorry, memory.
couldn't feel like he didn't have that prayer connection, the magic connection, the spiritual from the divine to the physical, and that I was able to just go boop.
There you go, yeah.
It just blew his mind
Uh-huh.
and gave him a lot to think about.
One of the reasons that choosing what feels right to you and
Mhm.
what works right for you is so important.
Yes.
Because it's a lot easier to have faith in something that you feel, something that you have a connection with, versus something you've been told this is how it is, and you just have to have faith and believe it.
Right.
It's easier to believe, and it's easier to have faith, and it's easier to work with those energies is if it's something that you connect with on your own. Which
Yep.
I think is one of the most important things that we do. Because if it's something that you connect with, whether it's from this path or that path or whatever, you have more of a connection to it. That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And like I said, I used to be friends with a Christian witch. At least that's what he called himself.
Seems to be a lot
Amber
more of that
Halsey
now.
told me, because I could not make the connection
Yeah, church stuff, so I practice on my own.
Opposite, and she told me a big part of my practice is ancestral veneration. She says, my grandmother was a Christian, and I'm not pissing her off, and I was like,
Yep.
oops, okay,
If my
now.
grandmother was anything like her, I
Oh,
wouldn't
she's
wanna piss her
awesome.
off either.
She's awesome, but I mean, before that, it just seemed like polar opposite, and I thought it was bullshit.
You got to remember, if we can manifest gods,
So can they?
so can Christians.
Yep.
I told my parents maybe a
Oh,
month
they call
ago
them prophets.
that I'm not Christian anymore, and it's actually a much more loving and good experience than I was expecting. I was expecting that.
Parents will surprise you.
Yeah, they will. And afterwards, and I thought in the moment, I was like, it was almost euphoric. And after, we cried together, and I told him just where, I'm just departing on my spiritual journey, and it felt like what I've always been told I'm supposed to feel like when I accept Jesus.
Yes.
Yep.
That was when I started questioning, because they would have, come to the front or raise your hand or whatever.
Yeah, it's all
And,
emotional.
and like, I kept doing it every time they had one of those, every event or whatever I went to. And it never happened. And I'm like, I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
First time I came to one of the
guilt.
meetings at the Wellness Center,
Something with this big one.
it didn't just click, it slapped me upside the head and said, here you go. And
Right on.
yeah, I started doing that, I'm kiddo's age. I'm 9, 10, 11. And I didn't think this until I was almost 22. So, when you find it, you find it.
Yep.
And you never stop once you do.
Told you.
It keeps.
Question, learn, but they
Grow.
think they can be.
Yeah, they try.
It's supposed to be.
Well, are we done?
Uh,
I don't know what time it is.
Well, it's almost 10 after 8, so.
I'd say we're
An
done.
hour.
Yeah.
Mitch.
Thank you.
Yeah.